How far would you go to protect your child, especially when the truth you uncover could destroy the one person holding your family together? When Grant Walker, a grieving widower and high-powered executive, stumbles upon his daughter's hidden diary, he's faced with an impossible choice. What he does next could either save his little girl's heart or break it forever. Grant Walker, a successful executive and a grieving widower, thinks he is protecting his 8-year-old daughter when he discovers her secret diary. But sometimes our greatest protection can lead to our greatest destruction. 2 years ago, Grant's wife passed away while he was on a business trip. Since then, he has built walls so high that even his daughter Chloe cannot reach them. She writes letters to her mother in heaven every night, writing a little less each month, her laughter becoming a memory. Then Hazel Monroe enters their lives, a nanny who brings light to their darkness. For the first time since the funeral, Grant dares to hope again. His daughter smiles. His home feels like a haven, but when Grant reads Chloe's diary, he sees manipulation where there should be love, fearing exploitation. He makes the biggest mistake of his life. He fires the woman who was healing both of them. What he doesn't know is hiding on the last page of the diary is a letter that will change everything if he finds it in time. This is a story about second chances, hidden truths, and the lesson that sometimes what we push away out of fear is exactly what we need to heal. Hazel Monroe does not look like someone who could change lives. At 34, she carries a quiet strength, the strength that comes from surviving many storms and choosing to bloom despite it all. She has gentle eyes that can see through surface wounds and hands that know how to heal hearts as well as scrapes and bruises. When she arrives at the Walker estate for the interview, she is not surprised by the marble floors or crystal chandeliers. Instead, she notices the family photos turned down, the child's artwork hidden in drawers, the silence that fills the room where laughter should be. Grant conducts the interview like a business meeting. Formal. During the interview, she was not at all surprised by the marble floor or the crystal chandelier. Instead, she noticed the family photos turned down, the child's artwork hidden in the drawer, the silence that filled the room meant for laughter. Grant conducted the interview like a business meeting. Formal, efficient, emotionally detached. But Hazel saw through the expensive suit and polite smile. She saw a man drowning in his own protection, afraid to make the one he loves again. She explained, her voice carefully controlled, "My daughter needs structure, routine, stability. She's been through enough chaos already." Hazel nodded, but her reaction left him surprised. What did Chloe need to feel safe enough to be a child again? This question hung in the air like a challenge. When was the last time anyone asked Chloe what she needed instead of Grant worrying about what, just for a moment? Grant's protective mask slipped away. Hazel caught a glimpse of the father underneath. Weak, desperate, heartbroken for love, and something changed in her chest. An acknowledgement she hadn't expected. This wasn't just a job. This was a family that needed more than care. They needed courage. But Hazel also had her own secrets, her own reasons for being drawn to broken families. And when she reached out to shake the Grant's hands, none of them realized that this simple touch was the beginning of everything. The question is whether this is the beginning of healing or suffering. Hazel's first week changed everything. She didn't try to replace Chloe's mother. Instead, she helped honor her memory. She found hidden artwork and hung it on the fridge. She found family photos and quietly put them back in their place. Most importantly, she started leaving little handwritten notes in Chloe's lunchbox. If you're feeling heavy today, draw your feelings, then let them fly away like butterflies. You're braver than you think, stronger than you appear, and loved more than you know. Missing your mom but still smiling is normal. For the first time in 2 years, Chloe began to speak at dinner. She showed her dad her drawings again. She asked about her mom without seeing the sorrow etched on Grant's face. And, wonderfully, she started to smile slowly. Grant found himself coming home early, lingering at the door, watching this change unfold. The way Hazel knelt down beside Chloe's gaze when she talks, she turns everyday moments into little adventures. The innocent laughter of their daughter fills their home. But it's not just Chloe who is changing. Grant realizes he is observing Hazel when she isn't aware. The way she moves gracefully in the kitchen, her voice becomes melodic as she reads bedtime stories. The strength from her gentle hands when she braids Chloe's hair. One evening, he realizes he has been standing at the door for 10 minutes, just listening to them sing together while washing the dishes. When Hazel turns around and catches him watching, their eyes meet. Time slows down. There is something like electricity running between them. Recognition, attraction, possibility. She is recovering, Hazel whispers, meaning Chloe. But Grant looks at Hazel and thinks, "Me too." Neither of them makes a move to break the spell. They stand there, two wounded souls recognizing something in each other that they thought was lost forever. Hope. But the healing process is not a straight line, and sometimes the moment we dare to hope again is when our deepest fears come rushing back. Grant is about to face a choice that will test all his beliefs about love, trust, and second chances. It happened on a rainy Thursday evening. Grant comes home and sees Hazel and Chloe lying on the living room floor, surrounded by art supplies. Chloe is painting a picture, the first colorful painting since her mother passed away. "That's our family," Chloe explains, pointing at the three figures in the painting. "Mom in heaven is watching over us, and Hazel is helping us remember how to be happy." Grant holds his breath. In the painting, all three figures are smiling. When Grant kneels down to take a closer look, his hand reaches toward the painting. At the same time, Hazel points out a detail. Their fingers barely touch, but just enough to create an electric current running through both of them. The picture, the first photo, had bright colors since her mother passed. "That's our family," Chloe explained, pointing to the three figures in the painting. "Mom in heaven watching over us and Dad, and Miss Hazel is helping us remember how to be happy." Grant held his breath. In the painting, all three figures were smiling. When Grant knelt down to take a closer look, his hand reached towards the painting just as Hazel pointed out a detail. Their fingers barely touched, but it was enough to create a current running through both of them. Time stood still. Grant's hand did not pull back. Hazel's didn't either. They felt frozen in this moment, acutely aware of every point of contact, every shared breath, every heartbeat resonating between them. "She is amazing," Hazel whispered, her voice barely audible, but she does not look at the picture. She looks at Grant, seeing the father he is learning to become, the man he has hidden beneath layers of sorrow and fear. Grant's gaze met hers. "Me too," he said softly, and those words carried more weight than either of them expected. At that moment, he was not talking about her job performance. He was talking about how she brought light back into their darkness, how she made him feel alive when he had forgotten what that meant. Chloe looked up at them, both naive and wise. She asked Hazel, "Do you want to be a member of our family forever?" The question shattered the enchantment. Grant and Hazel stepped back, suddenly realizing they had crossed an invisible boundary. But the damage had been done. Or rather, the healing process had begun. Both felt it, the possibility of having something beyond professionalism, deeper than convenience. That night, Grant lay awake recalling that moment. Hazel's soft skin, the way she looked at him as if he was worthy of meeting, worthy of being known, worthy of being loved again. For the first time since Sarah passed, he allowed himself to imagine a future that was not just about survival, but hope comes with fear. And Grant Walker was about to discover that sometimes our greatest protection is our greatest destruction. Because 3 floors up, someone was sowing seeds of doubt that would bloom into the biggest mistake of Grant's life. And hidden in Chloe's room, a journal contained words that could save their blossoming love or destroy it completely. Liam Bryce was Grant's business partner for 15 years, but their relationship changed the day Sarah died. What Grant did not know was that Liam had harbored feelings for Sarah long before she married Grant, the emotions he had never actioned, but never forget. Looking Grant come back to life, seeing him smile for the first time in 2 years, made Liam feel something ugly. If he couldn't have Sarah, why did Grant get a second chance at happiness? Liam remarked during their weekly work lunch that she looked different lately, more relaxed. Is it the new nanny? Grant's face unintentionally softened when Hazel was mentioned. She is very nice to Chloe. Really nice. I'm sure she is, Liam replied in a calculated, calm manner. Single women can be very intuitive about what widowed men need to hear, especially wealthy widowed men. This comment hit Grant like a cold slap. What are you implying? Nothing. Nothing. Liam stepped back, but the poison had spread. I just think you should be careful. Right now, you're vulnerable. And some women, they see an opportunity when seeking care. That night, Grant looked at Hazel differently. When she suggested buying organic food, he wondered if she was testing his financial limits. When she asked about Chloe's therapy needs, he wondered if she was positioning herself as essential. When she casually mentioned her mother's medical bills, he suddenly saw the calculated vulnerability instead of genuine sharing. The doubt spread like ink in water, tainting every interaction. Hazel's gentle concern became manipulation. Her intuitive understanding of Chloe turned into opportunistic psychology. Her increasing closeness with the family became a long-term strategic plan. Grant began to pull back, becoming more formal, distant. Hazel noticed the change but didn't understand why. She saw the walls going up but didn't know why. She only knew that the man who once looked at her with hopeful eyes now treated her like a potential threat. "Did I do something wrong finally?" One evening, Hazel asked, her voice soft and confused. Grant's response was cold and professional. "I think it's important for us to maintain appropriate boundaries. For Chloe. But Liam's poison is still active, and Grant is about to make a discovery that confirms his worst fears. Or at least, he thinks so, because sometimes the evidence we find proves exactly what we fear to see, even when the truth is completely the opposite. A diary hidden in Chloe's room is waiting to be discovered, and the words inside could destroy everything or save it all." This happened on Saturday morning when Hazel was at the grocery store with Chloe. Grant is cleaning out his daughter's room, something he has been avoiding for months because the room holds too many memories of bedtime stories and lullabies he shared with Sarah. As he moved Chloe's drawing board, a small notebook fell to the floor. Her diary, the diary she wrote every night before bed, the diary she kept as a precious secret. Grant knew he shouldn't read it. Privacy is very important, even for an 8-year-old. But there was something urging him on. Perhaps it was parental anxiety, maybe the growing doubt that Liam had instilled in his mind, or maybe it was just the desperate need to understand his daughter's inner world. He opened to a random page. "Dear Mom in heaven, I wish Dad wouldn't be sad anymore when he sees me. Sometimes I think he wishes I would die in his place. I know that's not true, but his eyes are filled with tears and he looks away. Hazel says that Dad's heart is just sleeping, not broken forever." She said, "When people love someone as much as Dad loved them, they need time to learn how to love back without feeling guilty." Grant's hands trembled as he read, in a dazed state of mind, poisoned by Liam's insinuations. He interpreted these words differently than their original meaning. He does not see Hazel helping Chloe understand her grief. He sees her sowing the idea, encouraging Chloe to analyze him, viewing him as a broken man. He flipped to another entry. "Hazel asked me what I remembered most about Mom. I told her about the songs we used to sing while baking cookies. Then Hazel taught I remember the song that my mother used to sing for my father when my father was sad. How did she know? I think Hazel knows things about love that others don't. I think she knows how to heal a heart." For Grant, this feels like manipulation. It's like Hazel is learning about her family, uncovering private details to establish a deeper connection. He doesn't see the truth. Hazel recognizes those songs because they are classics, the very songs that her mother used to sing. He doesn't understand that Hazel's insights stem from her psychological background and her own experience of loss. Grant reads each point one by one, each point affirming his worst fears through the lens of suspicion. Chloe writes about how Hazel understands her father's loneliness. Ms. Hazel says that as long as Dad is happy again, that's enough. The way Ms. Hazel transforms their house into a home. For a man afraid of manipulation, it all sounds like a carefully orchestrated campaign. Hazel cannot heal their family's wounds. She is positioning herself in that. She isn't helping Chloe through her grief. She is using psychological techniques to bind them to her. When Hazel and Chloe return from the store, laughing while carrying groceries, Grant is waiting in the living room. His face is as cold as stone. He has made a decision. He is about to make the biggest mistake of his life. Driven by fear disguised as protection. And Hazel, seeing his expression, knows right away that things are about to change. "Chloe, go to your room and wash your hands to get ready for lunch," Grant says without looking at his daughter. His voice carries an authority that Chloe has learned not to question. She glances between her father and Hazel, sensing the electric tension in the air, then quietly complies. Hazel slowly puts down the groceries, her gestures very careful. She has worked with many families to recognize this moment. The moment everything falls apart, often for reasons unrelated to her actual performance. "Is everything okay?" she asks, even though she knows that that's not it. Grant's hands clenched on either side. "I've been thinking about our agreement, about what is best for Chloe. I think it's time we need to change." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Hazel felt her stomach sink, but she kept her voice calm. "How are we changing? I think it's best if you don't come back. Of course, I will pay you at the end of the month, and I will provide a great reference for your next position." Hazel studied his face, searching for the man who had looked at her with hopeful eyes just a few days ago, but that man had disappeared. replaced instead by a cold, distant, and fearful stranger. "Can I ask why this is happening?" Her voice remained very professional, but Grant could sense a slight tremor beneath. Grant couldn't tell her about the journal. It would reveal too much about his own delusions and weaknesses. Instead, he resorted to the company's ambiguous language. "I've decided Chloe needs different support, more structured, less personal." Hazel nodded slowly. She had been through this before, not from being shot, but from fear. She recognized a man running from something that scared him more than loneliness. The ability to love. "I understand," she said softly. "You are protecting yourself. And Chloe, you just wish she felt safe enough to protect what we are building instead of destroying it." Grant's calmness shattered. "Don't pretend that you understand how I feel. You don't know anything about us, about what we've been through." "You're right," Hazel said as she picked up her purse. "I don't know everything, but I know grief. I understand fear, and I know the feeling when someone chooses safety over happiness." She paused at the door, turning back one last time. "Grant, Chloe doesn't need perfection anyway. She just needs the present, and you'll eventually learn to live in the present again." The door closed behind her with a perfect, "She just needed the present." And finally, you learn how to live in the present once again. The door closed behind her with a soft sound echoing like thunder in the suddenly empty house. Grant stood in the marble-floored foyer, surrounded by luxury and silence, and for the first time wondered if he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Upstairs, Chloe had been listening, and in 3 days, she would make a choice that would force Grant to face the truth he had been running from, because children have the ability to see clearly what adults hide with their fears. The change in Chloe happened instantly and brutally. The little girl who had been brightening up was starting to wilt like a flower cut from its roots. On Monday, she hardly touched her breakfast. By Tuesday, she stopped talking at dinner. By Wednesday, the little girl, she didn't even bother to look at her art supplies anymore. Grant told himself that it was just temporary. Children are resilient. She will adjust. But when he saw his daughter retreat back into the gray silence, they had to struggle hard to escape. The fear clawed at his chest with familiar talent. "Sweetheart, what do you want to eat for dinner?" he asked on Thursday night, trying to sound normal. Chloe shrugged, not taking her eyes off the homework she was working on. "Do you want to call Grandma, or we could watch the movie you've been wanting to see?" Another shrug. The silence stretched between them like an ocean. That night, Grant stood outside Chloe's room, listening to her cry softly into her pillow. It was the sound she had made for many months after Sarah passed away. Broken, desperate, too big for such a small person to carry. He tried knocking on the door. "Chloe, can I come in? I'm so tired. Dad, I just want to sleep." Grant pressed his forehead against the door, feeling helpless in a way that reminded him of the terrifying early months after the funeral. Back then, he didn't know how to help his daughter through the pain. Now, he didn't know how to help her regain hope. On Friday, Ms. Peterson, Chloe's teacher, called him. "I'm worried about Chloe. She has made tremendous progress, participating in class, laughing with friends, and showing me her artwork. But this week, she is completely withdrawn." When something changes at home, Grant's throat tightened. "We have made some changes to her routine. Maybe she's just adapting." "Mr. Walker," Mrs. Peterson's voice was gentle but firm. "I have been teaching for 23 years. This is an adjustment. This is grief, new pain. No matter what changes occur, Chloe still sees it as another loss." That evening, Grant watched his daughter push food around her plate, her face pale and distant. The girl who had sung in the kitchen 2 weeks ago now sat like a ghost at 2 weeks now, sitting like a ghost at the dining table. "I miss Ms. Hazel," Chloe finally whispered, the first word she spoke after 2 days. Grant's fork froze just as it was about to reach his mouth. "She was just our employee, sweetheart. There will be other caregivers." Chloe looked at him with eyes that seemed older than her age. "She was nothing. Dad, she taught us how to find happiness again." "Why did you send her away?" Grant had no answer that wouldn't reveal his own fear and failure. That night, listening to his daughter cry and then fall asleep, he began to wonder if the one he was protecting Chloe was himself. But the truth is about to be revealed. The truth is about to be revealed. Hidden in Chloe's room, carefully written on the last page of her diary, is a letter that will change everything Grant thought he knew about truth, love, and second chances. Everything Grant thought he knew about Saturday arrived in a gloomy and silent atmosphere. Truth. love, and second chances. Chloe didn't leave her room for 3 days except to eat. Grant stood in the kitchen, staring at his coffee, wondering why his life had returned to a state of emptiness so quickly. Grant stood in the kitchen. He decided to clean Chloe's room, partly to feel useful, partly because he couldn't bear the emptiness of the rest of the house. As he put away her art supplies, he noticed her diary lying open on the nightstand. He shouldn't read it again. The last time only confirmed his worst fears, but something compelled him. On the nightstand. He shouldn't read it again. Perhaps it was desperation, perhaps hope, perhaps just the need to understand why his daughter had vanished before his eyes. But something compelled him. Perhaps it was he opened to the last entry, expecting to find words about sadness or abandonment. Instead, he found something that made his heart stop. To the last entry, expecting to find the handwriting was different, smaller, more careful. Adult handwriting. Hazel's handwriting. Instead, he found something that made, "Dear Chloe, if you are reading these lines, it means I have to say goodbye sooner than expected. Smaller, more careful, but this is what I want you to remember. Adult handwriting. Hazel's handwriting. Dear Chloe, your father doesn't want you to change. He sees your mother's eyes in you, and it makes him miss her so much that his heart aches. Remember, your father doesn't want you to, but it's not your fault. He loved her that much, and you, and that makes him remember, and one day, he will realize that loving her doesn't mean he can't love again. It's not your fault. You're not being too much. You are exactly enough. Loved her that much, and one day, he will realize. Give your father a big hug and tell him that missing your mother is normal and to be happy with you. I need you to know one more thing. Sweet girl, the reason I understand your father's sadness is that I have also lost someone. My sister, Emma. She was about your age when the accident happened. I understand your father's sadness is. For a long time, I thought that helping other families heal their wounds would heal my own pain. But being with you and your father has taught me something different. Love doesn't heal pain. Love gives pain a place to exist alongside joy. Doesn't heal pain. Love gives. Your father is learning this, even though he doesn't know it yet. A place to exist alongside joy. Your father, and one day, he will be brave enough to choose love over fear. Until then, remember that you are loved more than you think. Brave enough to choose love over. You are stronger than you think, and you deserve all the happiness in the world. Loved more than you think. You. P.S. If your father reads these lines, I want him to know that I am not trying to replace anyone or manipulate anything. I am just trying to love both of you in any way you can accept. Sometimes the best thing we can do for people is to love them wholeheartedly and trust them to choose what they need. I choose to believe that he will choose love wholeheartedly and trust them to choose. Sincerely, Miss Hazel. Grant's hands trembled as he read and reread the letter. He will choose love. Sincerely, Miss Hazel. Every word revealed a truth he was too afraid to acknowledge. Grant's hands trembled as he read. Hazel wasn't manipulating them. She was healing them. She didn't position herself in their family. Acknowledge. Hazel wasn't manipulating them. She was giving them space to heal together. Was healing them. She didn't position herself. He reflects on every interaction, every moment that he has reinterpreted through the lens of fear. Hazel's questions about Chloe's needs are sincere. They truly care. Fear. Hazel's questions about her understanding of their grief is not subjective. It is truly compassionate. Her increasing closeness to the family is not a strategy. It is organic, natural, and authentic. Grant sits on Chloe's bed, holding a letter, fully aware that he has just destroyed the best thing that has happened to his family since Sarah passed away. Holding a letter. Understanding the question now is not whether he made a mistake. The issue is whether he has the courage to fix it. The question now is not whether he, because somewhere on the other side, in town, Hazel Monroe is trying to mend her broken heart. She never knew that her final letter could have salvaged the love she thought she had lost forever. Lost forever. Grant reads Hazel's letter 3 more times. Each time he reads it again reveals layers of truth he was too blind to see. This is not the writing of someone trying to manipulate. It is not the writing of someone trying to. This is the work of someone who understands that love is both a weakness and a strength. Someone who understands that love is both. He thinks about Liam's venomous implications regarding his willingness to believe the worst instead of hoping for the best. He is so afraid of being used that he has pushed away the one person who needed nothing and had given everything. To the point that he has pushed away the one person who needs, "What have I done?" He whispers to the empty room, "Everything." "What have I done?" He rushes to Chloe's room and knocks softly. Whispering to the empty room, he rushes to, "Honey, can I come in?" He goes to Chloe's door and knocks softly. This time, Chloe doesn't respond. He opens the door and sees her curled up on the chair by the window, staring out at the gray sky, and sees her curled up on the chair by the window. "Chloe, I need to talk to you about Hazel," staring out at the gray sky. "Chloe, I will explain why she had to leave." Chloe turned to look at him, her eyes red from crying, but suddenly brightened with unexpected hope. Turning back to him, her eyes red from crying, but suddenly brightened with unexpected hope. "I made a mistake," Grant continued as he sat beside her. "A big one. I was scared, and I missed the best thing that happened to us in a long time." "Because you thought you didn't really love us, that happened to us in a long time." "Because," Chloe asked softly. Grant held his breath. "How did you know?" "Ms. Hazel told me that sometimes adults are so afraid of being hurt again that they hurt themselves first. That sometimes adults are too afraid. She said that it's like removing the bandage before the cut has healed because you fear it will hurt later." This metaphor hit Grant hard. It will hurt later. This metaphor was exactly what he had done. He had torn off the healing layer out of fear of pain. Chloe's dad continued, "Ms. Hazel said she loved us, out of fear of pain. She truly loved us, not pretending to love." She said, "Sometimes the ones we love the most are the ones we need to trust the most." Grant pulled his daughter into his arms, feeling her small body shivering against his chest. "You know, girl, you know she did. And you love her too. You know, girl, you know she did. And you're just too scared to admit it." "Can we bring her back?" "Admit it? Can we bring her back?" Chloe asked, her voice choked beneath his shirt. Asked, her voice choked beneath, "I'll try." Grant promised, "But first, I need to fix something else. But first, I need to fix something else. I need to apologize to the one who tried to poison my mind to prevent the best thing in life." That night, Grant made 2 phone calls. The first was to Liam, asking to meet with him to discuss urgent work. The second was to call a private investigator to ask for Hazel's current address. Private investigator to ask because love is not just an emotion, but also a struggle. Hazel's current address. Because love is not just, and Grant Walker was about to discover that some battles are worth everything you have to give up. Some battles are worth everything you on Monday morning. Grant was waiting in the school parking lot for Liam's car. To give up, he doesn't have to wait long. What he sees makes his blood run cold. Liam is talking to Hazel next to her little blue car. His body language is aggressive, accusatory. Hazel stands still, her face calm, but her hands are clenched at her sides. Aggressive, accusatory. Hazel stands. Grant steps out of the car and approaches, grabbing the back of the vehicle. End of Liam's words. Exploiting a grieving family is despicable. I hope you're proud of yourself for manipulating a weak man and his child. Hazel's response is very gentle but firm. Yourself for manipulating a weak man. I just want to help Chloe honor her mother's memory while building new memories. Gentle but firm. I just want to help. Is there a problem here? Grant's voice echoes in the morning air like steel. Here, Grant's voice echoes in. Liam is startled. Grant, I didn't expect to see you here. You just what myself. Grant, I didn't expect to see. Grant steps between Liam and Hazel. You here. You just what. His body language clearly shows his stance. Grant steps between Liam and Hazel. Harassing the woman who gave my daughter what I couldn't give her. Harassing the woman who gave my daughter the right to grieve and hope. Grant, you don't understand. She's been manipulating you with psychological tactics. The only one manipulating everyone. Here is her. Grant interrupts, his voice calm yet chilling, sowing doubt about the best thing that has happened to my family since Sarah passed away. My family since Sarah passed away. Question her motives again. Question her motives again. And you will have to answer me. Hazel looks between the two men, understanding gradually dawning in her eyes. Understanding gradually dawning in her eyes. She speaks to Liam in a tone more sad than angry. You are the one who convinced him that I was taking advantage of him. Tone more sad than angry. You are the one who convinced him that I was taking advantage of him. Liam's face turns red. I'm protecting him. You think I don't know what women like you do. You see a wealthy widow, and that's enough. Grant's shout echoes throughout the parking lot. Enough. Grant's shout echoes throughout. Women like her. You mean the women who help dead houses come alive, the women who teach children that grief and joy can coexist. Can pain and joy coexist? The women who love without asking for anything in return. Love without asking for anything in return. His voice dropped to a dangerously low whisper. Or do you mean women who are not Sarah, because that is the true purpose of this story? Right, Liam, you will never forget her, and he can't stand the thought of you finding happiness again. Liam's face turned pale. That's not true. Wife, never resentful that she chose me. I never did. You never did what never nurtured feelings for his wife. Never resentful that she chose me. Justice. Grant stepped closer. I no longer want to never see my pain as a form of justice. Be manipulated by his unresolved emotions. Grant stepped closer. I no longer want to be manipulated by your unresolved feelings about a woman who died 2 years ago. Find out that he intervened in my life. Stay away from my family. Liam, stay away from Hazel. And if I find out that you interfere in my life again, our partnership, both professionally and personally, will come to an end. And he drove away. Grant turned to face Liam, opened his mouth to protest, but then seemed to deflate. Hazel suddenly realized that without saying another word, he got in the car and drove away. Grant turned to face Hazel, suddenly realizing that the hardest conversation of his life was about to begin. He had to bare his soul and believe, because exposing Liam's manipulation was the easy part. Now he had to bare his soul and believe that it was not too late to uncover the truth. The parking lot was empty as other parents drove away with their children. Grant and Hazel stood next to her car. Morning sunlight cast long shadows on both the hazel tree. Grant started to stroke his hair and then stopped, stroking his hair and then stopped. I don't even know where to start, Hazel softly said. You can start with why you believe him. Why is it easier to think the worst of me than to believe that I actually care about you and Chloe? Grant looked down at the ground, his voice full of shame. And Chloe. Grant looked down at the ground. Because caring about you scares me more than loneliness. He took a deep breath. I fired you because I was too scared. Loneliness. He took a deep breath. Not because you hurt Chloe, but because I care about you. I couldn't save my wife. I can't bear the thought of disappointing someone I love. My wife. I can't bear the thought of when Liam sowed those doubts. It gave me an excuse to run away from what I was feeling. It's easier to believe he's manipulating us than to face the truth. For the first time since Sarah died, I felt happy. Face the truth. For the first time, I was really happy. And that scares me more than any grief. Really happy. And that scares me. Hazel looked closely at his face, seeing the raw honesty there. More than any grief. Hazel looked closely. You read Chloe's journal. I read your letter. At his face, seeing the raw honesty there. Grant corrected him. The one you left on the last page. You read Chloe's journal. I read your letter that made me realize how foolish I had been. Grant corrected him. The one you left, you lost your sister. Grant continued. You understand the grief because you've been through it. You don't analyze us. You helped us heal because you know what broken hearts need. You've been through it. You don't analyze. Hazel nodded, tears beginning to well up in her eyes. Us. You helped us heal because you, Emma, was only 7 when the house caught fire. I was supposed to watch over her, but I was on the phone with my boyfriend. By the time I smelled the smoke, Grant said gently, you blame yourself. Boyfriend. By the time I smelled the smoke, I blame myself for being in London when Sarah had her stroke. The guilt never really goes away, Hazel agreed, but being with you and Chloe gives me a place to live with purpose. You both have given me a reason to believe that love can coexist with loss. Grant stepped closer, his voice dropping to an intimate whisper. I read the letter you sent to Chloe. Read the letter you sent to Chloe. The part about love, not about healing the hurt, but giving the hurt a place to live alongside the joy. It's a wound in one place to live alongside joy. Can you teach me how to do that? Hazel looked into his eyes, searching for the truth hidden behind the words. His eyes, searching for the truth hidden behind the I can't promise that I will never leave. Grant, life offers no guarantees. Life offers no guarantees. I know, Grant replied, taking her hand, but can you promise me this? If you stay, it means you choose our family every day. Not out of obligation, but out of love. Tears filled Hazel's eyes as she smiled. This was the first real smile Grant had seen from her since everything began. I've chosen both of you, every day. As Grant pulled her into his arms, he held her as if she were a precious gift, her into his arms, holding her as if neither of them noticed the small face watching from the classroom window of Chloe. But both agreed. Classroom window of Chloe. But both, some love stories are worth witnessing, especially those that teach us that second chances are not only possible, but necessary. 3 weeks later, the Walker house sounded completely different. Possible, but necessary. Laughter echoed throughout the room that had been silent for too long. 3 weeks later, the Walker house sounded. Grant came home early. not out of guilt, but out of joy. Stopping at the door to watch his two favorite people singing while baking cookies. Early, not out of guilt, but out of joy. Stopping, we're making Mom's chocolate cookies with Grandma's peppermint, Chloe announced, dusting flour on her cheek. Making Mom's chocolate cookies. Grant said it was the best combination of both recipes, just like family, bringing both together closer, the best of those who came before, plus something completely new. That night, they sat together reading Chloe's latest diary. Before, plus something completely new. Dear Mom in heaven, Dad has found love again. Hazel isn't trying to be her. She's just helping us remember everyone, teaching us how to have fun again. Today, Dad smiled as he looked at the family photo instead of showing sadness. I don't want to run away from this anymore, Grant said to Hazel under the starry sky. I want to choose love every day. Will you allow me to, instead of words? Hazel replied with a kiss flavored with promise and hope. Promise and hope. Inside, Chloe slept inside. Chloe slept peacefully, her dreams filled with art and laughter. On the porch, two wounded hearts choose to heal instead of fearing, choose love instead of protection, and choose each other instead of loneliness, instead of protection, and choose each other instead of 6 months later. Their first dinner party, Chloe presents her masterpiece, a family portrait with her mother depicted as an angel watching over the three smiling below. My two mothers, one in heaven, one here with me, reads the title in the careful handwriting of an 8-year-old. Chloe explains that this is indeed our current reality. We miss Mom, but we're not always sad. Dad smiles when he sees me. We're not always sad. Dad smiles when, and Ms. Hazel teaches both of us how to be happy without forgetting. What do we learn about love? Grant insists that there should always be enough. Chloe recites, love for those who have passed, loving those who are here, and loving those who may come after. That night, as they read Chloe's journal together, Grant sees her last line, reading Chloe's journal together. Tonight, I am grateful for a second chance, for love that grows instead of breaks, and for families who choose each other every day. This is the perfect summary of everything they have learned, built, and chosen to protect every day. This is the perfect summary of, this story is not just about a widowed father and a kind caregiver chosen to protect. This is about courage. The courage to believe in love when it feels impossible to trust, and a kind caregiver. This is about courage. Love is not about replacing what has been lost, feels impossible to trust. Love is not about, it's about building something beautiful from what remains. Something beautiful from what remains. What remains? You also deserve to have love like that. You also deserve to have love like that. This story reminds us that the path to healing isn't always direct. It's often tangled in misunderstandings, quiet grief, and love we don't know how to express. Grant believed he was protecting his daughter, but sometimes letting go of control is the most powerful act of love. Through Chloe's silent letters and Hazel's gentle presence, we see that even the most guarded hearts can open when met with patience and care. If this story touched you, show your support for Grant, Chloe, and Hazel. What would you do if faced with the same choices Grant had to make? Would you choose safety or trust love to lead the way? As Grant takes the first step toward reconnection, let's encourage him to keep walking toward forgiveness, toward being present, and toward building a future his daughter deserves. Share your thoughts in the comments. What advice would you give Grant? And if stories like this remind you of what really matters, we invite you to join our growing community. Subscribe to Touching Tales Hub for more stories that heal, inspire, and remind us that even the smallest act of compassion can change everything.